Hey everybody, welcome to A Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt. You are watching a Mothership RPG one-shot. This is a RPG put out by Tuesday Night Games that I've recently become enamored with. It's a sci-fi horror RPG intended for running games similar to Alien, Event Horizon, that sort of thing, sort of cosmic horror, derelict ships, zombies in spacesuits, that sort of thing. So one thing I want to say really quick before we get started and the players introduce themselves is that this is my last live game using Google Hangouts. And actually, as I went live, I got a little notification on my window that said Hangouts on Air is going away August 1st. And I just really quick wanted to say that that is a really weird, bittersweet feeling for me. I started running online games in 2012 using Google Hangouts before, like, D&D on Twitch was a big thing. And that's how I got my start running online games. And arguably, that's how my channel started to sort of gain more popularity. That's how the Provoker started. That's how all of the games that I've run on this channel have started with Google Hangouts. And Google Hangouts on Air is going away, and that's a weird feeling. And this, I wanted to get in one more game, one more ride for old time's sake. So this will be the last Google Hangouts game. So, yeah, and obviously I've been using Zoom and OBS on Provokers and some other campaigns, the Scrappers campaign, for a while now. So you'll be seeing more of that sort of stuff and less Google Hangouts. So anyway, I just wanted to make a quick note about that because I'm pretty sad about it. So Google Hangouts has become a pain in the ass the last couple of years, but it is still my go-to for impromptu games like this. So, all right. So real quick, I'm going to allow the players to introduce themselves and introduce their characters. Just tell us your character's name and a little bit about them and what their job is on the Cassidy. And then we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll start from my left to right. Austin, go ahead and go first.
I will be playing scientist Dr. Arthur Lee. He is just a medical doctor trying to get as far away as he can from the inner planets and all the politics within. So making a run out to deliver supplies seemed like a good way to stay away from that for the time being.
Chad, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so I am playing a character named Lexington Quay. Lex is a pilot. He is I'm assuming the pilot of the Cassidy. And he, yeah, basically that's all he knows is flying and being kind of a scrapper at the end of the day. Not necessarily, he doesn't necessarily look like the most, how do I put this, the most well-kept person. But he's not necessarily like dirt scum.
He's somewhere between Firefly and Alien in terms of aesthetic,
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Jake, go ahead, man.
I am playing Rachel. Rachel is a operations specialist, taking care primarily linguistics, navigation, computers, sort of the onboard IT. Rachel is a bit of an anomaly, though becoming more of a mainstay on these types of vessels, as Rachel is an android.
Awesome. And last but not least, Nick, go ahead and introduce your character.
Hey everyone, I'm Nick. I'm gonna play Hardy Johnson. He's a Marine. Although it's his class. He's hired on the Cassidy to work security. He spends most of his life pretty much making a decent living, being a private contractor for this corporation.
Alrighty. The stars stretch out infinitely. Pinpoints of light against endless black. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly where you are among the stars, Rachel. As you sit on the bridge of the Cassidy, its engines reverberating beneath you in a constant drone, you suddenly realize that you don't remember how you came to be here, why you're sitting on the bridge. It's almost like waking up from a nap, if you knew what that was like. You look around, you see the console in front of you, and on the terminal, you see a single line of command code. Critical hyperdrive failure. What would you like to do?
Immediately, to an outside observer, there would be no physical reaction to this, no start, no gasping for breath, no sudden looking around. The only physical outward indication that anything is wrong is a sudden triple sequence of blinks. Immediately looking down at the console, I would begin to punch in any codes, bringing up the ship's diagnostics and trying to verify the error.
You punch in the usual codes, running the troubleshooting process that you've run countless times before on countless vessels. The diagnostics are inconclusive. It's difficult to learn exactly what happened. But you do learn several things. You learn that there was a critical hyperdrive error, and obviously, the Cassidy is no longer traveling through hyperspace. You see that the failure happened at 0830 Terran Standard Time. You look at the console and you note that that was approximately 60 seconds ago. You also see that the last jump duration is 15 years, 9 months, 14 days, 11 hours, 2 minutes. The hyperspace jump to the science facility on World Z32 was supposed to take 3 days. You were in hyperspace for 15 years.
I immediately begin cocking my head in imitation of humans. Though it has no direct effect, this doesn't make sense. But I know my priorities in a failure like this is to ensure the stability of the ship, the stability of the cargo, and the stability of the crew. And I think already checked on the stability of the ship, inconclusive, while still trying to run run my own internal diagnostics, trying to account for this passage of time. I will begin to move to the hypersleep chambers to check on the essential crew.
You do so, moving through the bowels of the ship. You know that hyperspace it's hard to know exactly what occurs in hyperspace. The androids themselves were created as a direct result of hyperspace travel because humans are not capable of hyperspace travel while conscious. No matter how short the trip in hyperspace, humans are always put into cryosleep. You move into the cryo chamber, Rachel, where 4 pods sit. They're glass fogged with ice. You immediately check the life support. You see that 3 of the pods are in great shape. The 3 occupants, healthy, alive, likely having pleasant dreams. The 4th pod, the one containing the ship's engineer, Carter, is malfunctioning. You see that the glass is not fogged like the other 3 pods, and as you move towards it, instead of Carter's sleeping face, you see a desiccated corpse inside. Carter is dead and likely has been for several years.
I would imagine there is, though this is not supposed to happen, there is some sort of protocol for when something like this happens. I'm trying to decide if this is something that I would decide or you decide. If the protocol would be to either take care of the situation and explain it to the others later, or to wake the others. And I think I'm going to go with the latter. I feel like my directives are not to make these situations where life and death is critical for the humans is not my. It's actually against my direct orders to make those sorts of decisions. So I would start to wake the others.
Yeah, I imagine in the case of any sort of critical failure aboard the ship, not to mention the death of one of the crewmates, absolutely waking the rest of the crew up would likely be your protocol. And so you begin the somewhat arduous process of waking up the rest of the crew. You key in the proper commands, pull a lever, and the room begins warming. The fog condensation on the glass concealing the crew members begins to clear. The first one to wake up is Dr. Lee. Lee, you are a medical professional, and as soon as you begin coming to your senses, begin waking, you immediately sense that something is wrong. You have been put under in cryosleep many times before, and you know the effects, you know the drowsiness, the grogginess, the headache, the nausea. And as you wake, you immediately get the sense that you have been asleep for much longer than you should have been. The lid on your cryopod, its seal cracks and opens, and you see the android Rachel standing in the room.
Arthur shields he starts to try to shield his eyes from the light from the chamber outside of the pod. It's so bright. He kind of looks up and even catches a sight of his arm, and it seems like the muscle has atrophied beyond what he would have expected. He'll kind of look out. Right, Rachel, what are we? What's going on? We're supposed to be at Z32, right? What? I'm not thinking right.
I'm afraid we are not where we are supposed to be, and let's wait for the others.
He'll kind of start to lift himself out of the pod and stumble forward, and kind of catch himself. And as a turn, he'll see the other pod with the lack of fog on it, and go to investigate, and see Carter there, worn away and just desiccated, like he said. And he'll just take a step back and put his hand over his mouth. What? How long has it been, Rachel?
"15 years," and I'll rattle off the whole passage of time with the adjustment.
He just slumps back against a wall, like the bulkhead wall, and starts to sort of slide down and sit with his hand in his head. What? How could this happen? Did you programmed this to jump, didn't you?
The jump was programmed appropriately. All protocols were followed. But something does not make sense. And you would see, I imagine it's a bizarre expression on Rachel's face as she tries to mimic confusion, but this is not a emotion that is familiar to her.
Wake the rest of them up. I need to think. And he just starts kind of rubbing his temples and trying to massage some feeling back into his lifeless muscles.
As I'm going through the opening procedure for the rest of the other two, I turn to Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee, have we had this conversation before?
No, what? I just woke up. I don't. He just stares at her with a sort of puzzled look. His brain is not operating fully yet, and he's sort of not firing on all cylinders, and he's searching just for answers in general. And this thing seemed to hit him like what he almost doesn't even seem to understand what the words you're saying are.
It is of no matter. I'm simply assessing your clarity.
The next to wake is Hardy. Again, as I described with Dr. Lee, you've been under before. You've made many hyperspace jumps in your time, in your service to this corp. You've never felt quite like this before. You immediately get the sense that something is very wrong. And as you reach up to push the lid of your pod off, you feel a weakness in your limbs unlike anything you've ever felt before.
And Lee will be rising at this point and going to help him lift him out of the pod and sort of give him a medical checkup too when he gets out.
So imagine, yeah, he's helping you, or you're helping him, and he's pushing, and he gets out. I never get used to that, but this is the worst I've ever been.
Hardy, you should sit down.
This feels way worse than 3 days.
You should sit down.
I dropped my headphone. Sorry, guys.
Hardy, I think you should sit down.
They're way ahead of you. Hey, sit down.
It's been a lot longer than 3 days.
What, a
Something-
couple months?
Something went wrong. 15 years. Carter is dead. He just kind of rips the Band-Aid off.
And he's just stunned for a second. Was it only supposed to be a fast trip? I was supposed to be back in time for my son's 5th birthday. He's just... And then he looks over and sees the engineers. He's like, oh shit, we're in a lot of... we're deep trouble now. And he's just kind of just freaking out right now. Just wrestling with that fact that it's been 15 years.
We need the pilot. We need to figure out where we are, how long it'll take us to get back. Although when he kind of looks at the pod with Carter in it, I don't know if I want to get back into one of those pods.
Well, wake him up now and see what he thinks we should do. Rachel, can you open the pod for us, please?
I'll begin the sequence on the pilot's pod.
You do so, and Lexington, you wake as well. And much like your crew members, as soon as you wake, groggy, your mouth dry, your limbs weak, your head swimming with half-remembered dreams, you immediately realize that something is wrong.
Where the hell are we? Why do I feel so weak?
Easy, easy. Don't try to stand up too fast.
It's all right. It's all right. Oh shit! And he kind of stumbles halfway out of the pod. We've done this plenty of times. Why does it feel like that? He looks around the room to see the crew. Where's Carter?
Something went wrong. His pod. Something bigger went wrong too, though. We didn't go to Z32.
The hyperdrive has malfunctioned. The engineer Carter is deceased.
Wait. The hyperdrive malfunction? No. That I've been piloting this thing before we slipped into hyperspace, Matt, how long do you think that Lex would have been probably navigating and piloting?
Probably just a couple of days at sublight speeds, and then you would have charted your course and set the ship up for the hyperspace jump.
Well, I mean, I specifically for this ship, how long would he have probably had ownership of that ship?
Totally up to you how long you've served aboard the Cassidy.
I want to say he's probably served for the last 5 years on this ship. Like this ship is now his baby.
Yeah.
Right? And if something goes wrong with this ship, that doesn't happen. So hearing that news on top of Carter being gone is very unsettling. And so he'll get out.
Oh, I think Chad locked up.
Lexington has malfunctioned as well.
Critical Lexington failure.
Is his secret that he's an android? You can just freeze.
You cut out there for a second, Chad. What were you saying?
Oh, I was coughing and then saying that I need to get to the bridge because I need to see it with my own eyes. I'm not going to believe it just with hearsay. I need to see it and know where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking at how weakly and meekly he pulled himself out of that, though, Arthur's going to kind of try to do a little bit of just a once-over to see if there's anything, maybe something in his pack that he could give him to stimulate him or make sure that he gets, where he's going. He just wants to check out Lexington to make sure that he's good to go. He's not really worried about the Marine, but the pilot seems weakly.
Yeah, so if you want to do an intellect check, and then if you have any skill that might increase your intellect on this check, you can use that if you have first aid or biology or anything like that.
Yep, I have biology. So it's just was it a D100?
Yeah, so D100, you're trying to roll under your intellect, and if you have a skill that's trained, you can increase your intellect by 10. So basically, you increase the chance of rolling under your intellect.
Perfect. Okay, then that would be a success for me.
Great. So I would imagine that there's likely first aid kits sort of on the wall in this room, and so you immediately move to one of these and grab whatever you need, whatever sort of drug that you would use with someone who is waking up and having a difficult time, sort of coping with cryo sleep, the sickness that happens as you wake up.
Yeah, it's a shot.
So
It's a combination of a little bit of adrenaline, a little caffeine, and a little testosterone.
That makes absolute sense. So you walk up to Lexington and probably jam this in his neck. It does the sci-fi injection sound, and Lexington, you immediately feel a little bit more awake, alert. Your brain clears a little bit, and with that comes the very real realization of the deep shit that you are in. And so I'm going to need you to give me a sanity save, please. Grab D100. You're trying to roll under your sanity.
It wouldn't be a game if I wasn't trying to save myself from being.
Yeah, that's I do have to say, Chad is my absolute favorite person to play any sort of this game with, because he's the first player to be like, this book, you said it's bound in human flesh. I'm going to open it. I want to read it. Like, he just always just goes for it. It's so great.
Well, good news. I got an 11, so I actually passed that time. I'm not there. We're good. We're good. Life is great.
So you've been serving aboard ships probably your whole life, Lexington. You've made lots of hyperspace jumps. You've been lost before. And yeah, this is probably the deepest shit you've ever been in, but there's no reason to panic. You will gain nothing by panicking now. And so you take a deep breath, feeling reinvigorated, feeling like you can actually walk now, and you're able to stand up and move.
Okay. Doc, thank you. Appreciate that. Stings like a bitch still, but I'll get through it. Thank you. Let's move to the bridge. I need to see this. And then we get to the bridge of the Cassidy, and then when I get there, does anything seem off to me?
The thing you probably immediately notice as someone who's used to piloting and navigating is that you don't recognize any of the stars or constellations out of the viewport.
Okay. I've never been here before. Never been this far out before. I couldn't even tell you how we could get back at this point. Shit, I need to look something up. Hold on a second. And he goes in and he'll try to get onto he'll try to get on the console and kind of man the cockpit, kind of see what he can bring up to at least kind of tell him where they are. If there's something that could tell him where they are.
Yeah, so if you want to give me a intellect check, and
sure.
If you have anything that you think might aid you in that, you can let me know.
So I'll give an intellect check, but I'm also rated expert in astrogation.
Yep, so that'll increase your intellect by 15 for the purposes of this check.
Okay. So, I don't know if I did that though. So yeah, no, it's over because I rolled a 60 and that would have still been a 45 on intellect.
So you get on the console, you see the lines of code that presumably Rachel was working with. You see the critical hyperdrive failure. You see that she checked on the diagnostics report, tried to pinpoint location, was unsuccessful. You see the blinking duration of the hyperspace jump: 15 years, 9 months, 14 days, 11 hours, 2 minutes. Confirmed. You try to pinpoint your location and there's nothing. There's nowhere to start. You don't have any landmark, no stars to start with, to even work backwards to try to find out where you are. If you were in hyperspace for 15 years, there's no telling how far out you are. And as you scan, there's nothing. There's no planets, no celestial bodies of any kind within sublight range. You're not even in a star system. You're likely between star systems, likely trillions of light years from anything that you know. But wait. There is something. It's distant. It's faint. But there's something like a reactor signature. A ship reactor signature. It's right at the edge of your radar, but there's something there.
You see that right there? Rachel, come here. That's nowhere near the kind of signal we get on a planet. And I don't know hell where we are right now, but that right there, that little tiny beacon, that might be our only chance. I got no way of unknowing what it's going to lead to. But right now, we are in the middle of a derelict ship in the middle of like goddamn nowhere. "15 years.
With the hyperdrive's damage, we'll have to use standard thrusters.
Yeah, which could take longer for sure. But it's doable. It's possible.
I would like to see if I can calculate distance and if we're going to have the fuel necessary and everything. Start kind of almost interpreting Lexington's unspoken commands. Now that he's awake, I'm sort of operating as the secondary, running navigation and assisting. So I'll begin to do whatever I need to do to scan, open any communication frequencies, any of that kind of stuff.
So if you want to go ahead and give me an intellect check, and if there's any skills you think might aid you in that, you can let me know.
I have a computer skill.
That would certainly help.
Which is a +10, and that's an intellect check. Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, with my bonus, that would be trying to roll under a 43, and I rolled a 50.
So you can pretty easily calculate how long it would take at maximum burn. Using a lot of fuel, you could get there in a day. It would deplete your fuel, but you also don't see anything else worth flying towards. Aside from that, you're not able to detect anything else about the reactor signature or get any sort of bead on what it might be. You assume it's likely a ship based on the output, but beyond that, you can't tell much.
If we go full burn, we can be there in a day. We'll have to hope that they have the ability to refuel or even receive us.
Is there any way to try to send them any sort of a beacon or something? I mean, it would be nice if we could try to let them know we're coming if you see something out there.
Too far.
I mean, he'll look to Lexington. It's your say on what you want to do with the fuel, but I definitely don't want them to jump away before we get there. If that's the only thing around.
We need to try something. We'll set up for let's start progression toward that beacon, toward that signal at normal speed for now. We'll pick up pace when we get close we'll pick up pace if we get in close range and we hear back from them. Fair?
I'll follow your lead. You're more accustomed to being out on a ship than I am.
Yeah, he dusts his hair and all right. And I think he would begin keying in the codes that he would need, or beginning like just doing the traditional pilot's tasks of setting up navigational course. And then once he gets that situated, kind of lock it into autopilot, let it go. And then he would go back and try and find out about Carter, see if he could find something of why this hyperdrive failure happened.
Okay, great. What's everyone else doing?
I would just relay to Lexington. At this speed, we should be within tight beam comms range within 6 hours. Communications will be slow, both to send and receive. What would you like me to do in the meantime?
Well, I need two things. One, make sure the rest of our crew is healthy, getting back to normal. We can't get down there feeling as weak as we are. That's one. Two, I don't even know where to start. But if something went wrong with that hyperdrive, we need to know what happened. So we need to go down there and look. Check Carter, see if he's got anything on him for all the engineering tasks, what he was doing, all those kinds of things. See if there's anything in his room that might help us.
Roger. I turn to go, and as I leave the bridge, I stop in the doorway. And I turn back to look at Lexington. I've been sitting on this bridge for over 15 years. But I have no memory of that.
Wait. You're wiped too? Like, you're wiped? Like, he's... As opposed to, like, he's been sleeping for 15 years. The fact that you've been wiped and have no memory of that 15 years, that's very unsettling for him.
As he says this, the idea of an actual memory wipe had not occurred. Can I do some kind of internal diagnostics to see if my memory's been wiped, or if there's, like, do my internal chronometers measure the passage of time? Is there something synchronized?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and give me an intellect check to basically do an internal diagnostic, you can certainly do that.
Would the computer plus apply to that?
Absolutely.
That's once again, rolling against a 43, that is a 75.
You take a few seconds running internal diagnostics, and there's nothing. It's almost like between when you initiated the hyperspace jump, put the crew into cryo sleep, and now it's almost as if no time has passed, and yet you know for a fact that it has.
I look at Lexington and I say, I will continue to run diagnostics, but I don't relay any of this information to him. and then I will turn to go and follow up on the task he wanted me to do, heading to the engineer's cryo pod, and then to his room, looking for anything that might be useful.
Great. Hardy, what are you doing as this conversation is happening on the bridge? What sort of processes are you going through as the sole Marine aboard this ship?
I imagine that Hardy, he's kind of just digesting what's happening right now and just kind of agrees with Lexington's like, we need to make a plan. And he's like, what can I do? Do you need me to, we want me to help Rachel? I could maybe cook up some foods so we just get something in our stomachs.
That's a good. God, mentioning food now. That's actually a good idea.
Yeah, he says all this technical stuff. I'm kind of out of my element, but at least I could cook a good meal.
That's a good idea, actually.
At least some sort of comfort, you know.
I'll tell you what. You mix us up some rations, get everything together. Ship as much as we can. I want to check out the rest of the ship as much as we can. So come meet me and we'll start heading through the. I want to look around the entirety of the ship, so I'd like to have someone with me, kind of like an escort, if Hardy wants to come with.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'll make sure. Yeah, you're protected. Kids, anything got on board? Who knows? Anything can happen out here.
And just if we do end up fixing the hyperspace drive, I would, and we have to get back in those pods. I'm gonna go check out, try to see what happened to Carter's pod.
Please.
Try to figure out if I can, and maybe if there's any parts that are old or wearing out on ours, I can replace them with whatever.
Anything falling apart, please, Ed. I'd appreciate it. I don't want another scare like this again.
All right, so Rachel is going to go check on Carter. Lee, you're going to check on the cryopods. Hardy, you're going to prepare some food and then meet up with Lexington to do a thorough comb through the ship. Is that all correct?
Yep. And meanwhile, the ship is currently on a autopiloted course toward that beacon.
Yes. Yep. You're putting everything you've got into the burn towards that ship. You'll be there in about a day. So Hardy, you leave the bridge and move towards the mess hall near the center of the ship, and as you're walking towards the mess hall, you hear voices. They sound familiar. They're kind of muffled coming through the bulkheads of the ship, but you hear people talking and laughing in the direction of the mess hall.
Just really confused. Just he's all disoriented from being in cryo sleep for 15 years. Like, was there anyone else on board? He's like, of course not. No. He's gonna go investigate. Imagine maybe am I dressed in my gear and have my equipment, or I probably wouldn't necessarily have it yet, huh?
Yeah, you probably wouldn't have had a chance to gather your equipment yet, but if you're if you're thinking I need my gear, you might be able to make a pit stop at your cabin to grab your stuff.
Okay, so maybe I'll go dress up first, and who knows? This is not like any situation I've ever been before.
Yeah, you stop off at your cabin, which is conveniently in between the bridge and the mess hall, and you're able to grab your stuff. What sort of gear do you carry?
Well, I have a standard, battle dress, just a bunch of body cams, heads-up displays, just an SMG, a couple tools, a crowbar, all that kind of stuff. Just all suited up.
Yeah, you get decked out. You jam a fresh mag into the SMG, pull back the hammer, and feel a lot more comfortable with the heft of that in your hands. And as you move towards the mess hall, the voices get louder. And around the corner, you see the light sort of wavering as if there are people moving in front of the lights of the mess hall. You hear the voices, you hear the laughter. You hear Carter. He's saying, listen, when we get back, you're all going to try this, okay? I make it myself, and it's good for two things. It's good for clearing out clogs in the fuel lines, and it's good for getting you messed up. And then there's all this laughter, and you recognize your laughter. You recognize Lexington's laughter. You hear this sort of slight chuckle of Dr. Lee. You hear your voice coming from the mess hall.
Wow. Would I know if there's like anything that would record us, like logs or something that would play out there? Or
Not that you're aware of.
Oh, wow. I think my curiosity just gets better in me. I'm just like, I got to figure this out, what's going on. And maybe it's just a side effect of deep cryo sleep. So I'm going to continue to the mess hall and see what's going on.
You come around the corner, likely SMG pushed into your shoulders. You come around the corner, and as you step, the voices immediately stop. The mess hall is empty, completely empty, silent, and cold. I'm going to need you to give me a sanity save, please.
Okay. Oh, no, I do not. 98, well above.
Ooh. So you're going to be taking 2 stress. So go ahead and note that on your sheet. And basically what stress does is anytime you have to roll on the panic table, you add your stress to the roll. So there's a higher chance of you getting bad things on the panic table. So you come around the corner. There's no one there. The voice is cut out, and immediately you start thinking, maybe I just heard it. Maybe I'm, just remembering. Maybe it's, echoes from before going into cryo sleep. You've heard that people can have hallucinations and weird experiences after coming out of cryo sleep. It's hard to tell exactly what's a dream and what's real and what's memory. And you imagine that being under for 15 years would compound those side effects, but you've never experienced anything quite like this.
Okay. So I'm just going to go over to the sink and just start running and splash in my face. And just sit there for a minute and says, okay, it's okay, just focus. He's just going to go and look in the fridge and see what he can make up with, or however the kitchen situation happens here. Cook up some, make up the best meal he can.
Yeah, and as a Marine, you're probably used to working with whatever like MREs are, freeze-dried stuff is in the mess hall. Luckily, all of it is preserved and is still good after 15 years sitting in cabinets. So you start preparing a meal. Rachel, you enter the cryo chamber. You see the 3 open pods, the 4th one still closed with Carter's corpse inside.
I think I will just open the pod and begin examining what he has on him in terms of his jumpsuit, with just a sort of detachment. I imagine initially this doesn't, human death doesn't really affect me.
Yeah, you feel nothing, which as an android is likely par for the course. You detect that there's a faint smell of musk and decay emanating from the pod. You imagine that if you were a human, it would likely disgust you. But you feel nothing. You begin looking over the corpse. Go ahead and give me an intellect check. If you have any sort of biology or first aid, you can add that as well.
That is a 19, so that's a success.
As far as you can tell, Carter died of natural causes. There's no trauma around his body, no wounds. It seems like he simply expired inside the pod.
How old was Carter?
He was probably in his early 50s. Not in the best health, but certainly not knocking on death's door.
I will log a note of this, and then I would imagine at this point, having had the orders from Lex, there's probably some sort of body bag or something in a cabinet, and I would begin bagging up Carter's corpse, and sealing him. I think I would seal him in the body bag, but leave him in the cryo chamber for the moment, so that once that's done, I can go to his quarters and look for anything there.
Bag. Sorry, you get Carter sealed up in the body bag, and as you you zip it closed, and you checking a few things on the cryopod readout, just double checking, making sure you didn't miss anything as you prepare to go to Carter's chamber. And then you hear, you look over and you see the body bag inhaling and exhaling as if Carter's body begins breathing inside the bag.
I immediately open the body bag.
It's Carter's corpse. He's dead.
I close the body bag and just stand there staring at it.
The door opens behind you. You whirl around. It's Dr. Lee.
I see, already got him bagged up. Did your examination find anything funny? Was it suffocation then? Was it the pod malfunction?
All analysis and examination show that Carter has expired of natural causes.
Well, that was unexpected. Let's. Do you want to help me check the pod, or you're working on hyperspace? Never mind. And he'll start just kind of going behind Carter's pod and prodding around, seeing if there's anything in there that seems particularly like it may have malfunctioned or melted or sparked or anything.
I turn to continue with what I was going to do, which is to go to Carter's quarters. But I stop and I look back at Dr. Lee sort of moving around the room, just taking in the scene of Carter in the body bag, Dr. Lee beginning to examine the various pods. And something, it just seems like I've seen this before. And I say to Dr. Lee before I leave the room, Carter appeared to have died of natural causes. It was no fault of the pods. And then I turn and leave.
Lee will kind of look after Rachel as she leaves, kind of cock his head, and he'll go to his cabin and retrieve his equipment, and pull out his cybernetic diagnostic tool, and just kind of pocket that for the moment, and go back to work on the pods until he sees her again.
Awesome. Lex, you are sitting on the bridge. What are you doing as you wait for the others to complete their tasks?
I think Lex is going to begin kind of walking to his quarters. He's going to walk to his quarters. He's going to start evaluating the remainder of the ship, since he's kind of got things on the bridge in order from all extensive purposes. He's going to start walking to his quarters and kind of taking evaluation of the rest of the ship.
You do so, walking through the corridors of the ship you thought you knew so well. The ship, every bolt, every screw, every bulkhead, every deck plate.
Yeah. And you can see that as he's walking down these halls, he's actually like moving his hand along the walls, you know, kind of in memory of it. Like, I've been doing this for a long time, and you've never once let me down. Why now? Right? Like, why now? And he'll head toward his quarters as he's doing this.
You get to your quarters, step inside, gather your gear. You see, sitting on the nightstand next to your cot is this flask. It's simple flask, likely made of aluminum. It's filled with the swill that Carter used to make. You can't help but smile for a second as you see the flask sitting there.
Right. And I think he'd sit down on his bed and kind of take the flask in hand, and he would reach into his bag and pull out the manual, the book that was actually probably given to him by Carter. This book that says, "Poor Captain, Rich Captain." And he would kind of thumb through it, maybe trying to find a passage or something that means something to him, that's evocative. You weren't a pilot, you weren't captain, but you were always smarter than me, Carter. Always. You always had something to say that would have been better in the moment than I did. And now you're gone. Damn mistakes. Things you wish you could take back. And he kind of closes the book up, kind of, nope, not going to do it. And he'll grab the flask, and he'll
raise it up, kind of in the air, looking up at the ceiling. I'm gonna find out why. I promise you. And he'll tip it back and take a swig of the flask.
As you tip it back and take a swig, you look up at the ceiling of your cabin. You see yourself laying on the ceiling of your cabin as if it's the floor. Your eyes are wide. Blood pools beneath you. Your mouth opens in a silent scream. And as you jump up, falling backwards, the book in your lap falls to the plating, opening to a certain page. You look back up. There's nothing there. Please give me a fear save.
No, 87
All right, please add 2 stress.
to just two stress in general.
Yep.
Okay.
So your stress starts at 2, so your stress will now be at 4. Yep.
Damn.
And as you try to calm yourself, get your heartbeat under control, you see the page that the book opened to. There's writing in the margins, like sort of messy, scribbled writing. You don't remember ever writing in the book.
I looked down to see what was written.
There are 2 things that you can read. A lot of it is nonsense, strange characters that you don't recognize, drawings of incomprehensible things, scribbles. But there are 2 sentences that stand out to you. The first one says, "This has happened many times before." And the second thing says, "Rachel knows."
And I think I'm going to tear that page out, I think, and pocket it. And then close the book up. And I'm going to get my rigging gun from inside my gear kit. And I'm going to carry that thing now with me on my side like a shotgun and start like wandering through the halls to kind of see if I can catch up with any of the remaining crew, whoever it may be.
You hear clattering in the mess hall, and you come around the corner and you see Hardy there preparing a meal, sort of finishing it up, putting the finishing touches on whatever he's created.
Oh, good, you're back. Got some good filet mignon here.
You call that filet mignon?
God,
you
my
really
little
are.
extra
God, you really are a dick. Jesus. Okay.
So you're ready to go?
Barely. You feeling weird by chance? I mean, outside of the hunger thing. Yeah?
Yeah, I had a flashback before I got to the mess hall where I heard us having the conversation with Carter where he's talking about his homemade moonshine. And it was clear as it was just like I was reliving it. It was the strangest thing. I don't know if it's being in cryo sleep for 15 years or what, but it really it felt real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I gotta say, I had one of those myself. I don't feel comfortable anymore, and that's an unsettling feeling. I've never. The Cassidy's been my home for a long time, Marty. For a while now, and I can't think of flying another ship. But if it keeps up like this, it's not going to end well for any of us. So he looks down and he sees that you've got your gun out. Good?
Prepared for anything.
Strapped up, all right. Well, let's eat up real quick. If you can stomach something. And then let's get moving. I don't want to stay in one place for too long. I want to get back to the brig as soon as we can, or the bridge as soon as we can.
Okay.
Eventually, Lee and Rachel, you both find your way to the mess hall as well, finding Lex and Hardy there.
You saved a plate for me, right? I mean, I know this one doesn't want any, but kind of looking over to see what food's left. He'll take a plate and start eating pretty greedily, but he starts kind of like looking over to Rachel every once in a while.
Mess is probably the one of the few times that I would come the closest to feeling what a human would call awkward, because it's a formality. I always attend to be a part of the crew, but I don't partake. So I always just awkwardly sit there listening, trying not to look directly at anyone typically. But I imagine this time, once again, getting this feeling of familiarity, just looking around, looking at everybody. And I look at Hardy as everybody's eating, and I just very quietly look at the food that everybody's eating and just say, filet mignon.
This is the best I could do. I know it doesn't really look like it, but I got a couple extra moves up my sleeve.
As you're sort of looking around the room, Rachel, you see the stack of vinyl records sitting there next to an old turntable. The records that once belonged to Carter. And you remember every meal, him putting on a different record for the crew to listen to.
I imagine seeing this in my mind. I see Carter doing this, as I've seen him do so many times. But now I get up and follow the same motions. In my mind, it would almost look like I'm superimposed over Carter, walking over, flipping through, just doing that thing, flipping through the stacks of vinyl until I find a particular album that is a duet of Unforgettable with Nat King Cole and Natalie Cole. And following that same memory pattern, placed the album very carefully, touching only the edges, setting it down, lifting the needle to the edge until you hear that, and then the music starts.
It's very distinct. Starts with this kind of plinking piano, but you hear something else too in the background, something like a marimba or a xylophone playing alongside with the piano. All of you have heard this song countless times before, but there's something about hearing it now, imagining Carter putting it on, the static leading up to the music, and then the music itself, the certain tonality of the record, the fact that the turntable wasn't quite at the right speed, and so it either sounded a little bit too fast or a little bit too slow. But you all hear this song as you're eating, pushing food around your plates, and the voices kick in. And for a moment, it's almost like Carter is there again, walking back to the table after putting the record on.
If you'll allow this, Matt, I imagine I'm still following through that motion of Carter walking back to the table, and I'm hearing Carter's voice in this memory, but I would say and this is going to sound very weird coming from Rachel, because Rachel doesn't laugh, but you would hear Rachel sort of mimicking Carter's laugh in her own voice. I'm telling you, when we get back, you're all going to try this. And just continuing that conversation from earlier.
You all would remember this conversation, but none of you remember it as well as Hardy, because it's a conversation you just overheard as you were walking towards the mess.
Did you just remember that as well? Rachel? He just like kind of freaked out that she's bringing up the same memories. Like, is everyone just remembering Carter just everywhere?
I sort of shake my head looking at you, Hardy, just sort of, This just all feels like it's happened before.
You've said that before now, and by this time Lee has already kind of put his fork down and he's starting to rise to his feet. Would you mind if I just ran a scan on you, and I'll pull out his cybernetic diagnostic scanner? Like I think there might be something malfunctioning.
I've run all internal scans.
I understand that, but I'd appreciate if you would let me run a check as well. He's looking at her with pretty open suspicion. He hasn't been on board that long, and so he hasn't kind of worked his way into the crew or gotten to know anyone that well, and he's sort of naturally suspicious of androids, so he's not really hiding it that well.
I would just watch as you move the diagnostics. Is it sort of a device that you plug in? Is it you have to like plug it into a port, or how does it work?
That might be a Matt question. I'm wondering, yeah, what is the like tech level of this? Is this like a handheld scanner or?
I mean, it's pretty analog, in keeping with like the 3.5-inch floppy sort of sci-fi aesthetic of the of the thing. So I imagine that it would probably be something that you would maybe like a hidden port or something on Rachel somewhere that you would expose and then plug a cable into.
The little flap that peels back, and there's like a coaxial input, and you have to screw
the
thing on.
Yep, exactly.
All right, boot it up.
I think as you open up this port, and you just as you're about to make the connection, my hand reaches up and grabs your wrist. I look into your eyes, and then I carefully move, sort of guide you to make the connection directly.
You're
His hands are
shocked
sort of
at the intense strength that grips your hand, Lee.
Yeah, his hands are sort of shaking as he sort of tries to call upon his medical training to steady himself. Thank you. And starts to screw the thing in.
You get the cable into the jack, begin running the diagnostic on the scanner. So what you can do, Austin, is give me an intellect check. You can add any sort of training that you have in computers or androids, but then also you'll have advantage since you're using a piece of equipment, and so you'll be able to roll twice and take the higher or better result, lower result in this case.
Okay, I don't have any other skills, particularly biology, chemistry, and scavenging and jury rigging. So, ooh, that's not a good one. That would be a failure, and
Please don't jury rig this.
would also be a failure. So, nope, 2 failures.
So you begin sort of thumbing buttons on this thing, and it's doing the Blade Runner, like you hear like clicking sort of analog electronics inside this thing as it's scanning. And then there's kind of this weird sort of like static interference in this like terminal green screen. The screen blacks out. And then flashes back on. And you just see a single phrase on the screen. This has happened many times before. And the cursor is sort of blinking next to it.
He'll stare at that for a moment and look up at the port on Rachel and back down to he'll kind of pull the screen around and show it to Rachel. You keep saying this.
I don't look at the screen. I'm still looking in your eyes, and I just say, this has happened many times before.
Lex, you would also recognize the phrase as being the one written in the book.
Yeah. And I think at that point, Lex would like slide his food away. Rachel, how long have you been the navigator on this ship? I've been here for at least 5 years, but how long have you been the navigator on the Cassidy?
Allowing for the adjustments, 16 years, 6 months. This includes the 15-year time anomaly.
So only like a year and a half before this occurred.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I imagine I was assigned to this ship.
Okay. So maybe I'm just trying to think if maybe Lex would have had a former co-pilot / navigator that would have been on the ship on the Cassidy with him.
Yeah, you would have had a ship always needs an android if you're going into hyperspace, and so there would have been an android that served aboard the Cassidy before Rachel.
Okay. Oh, I see. And he seems to just like analyze that, like thinking about it now. And does he have he has memories of before the gap, right? Before
Yeah, you remember. They're fuzzy, but you remember everything leading up to waking up in the cryopod. You remember getting your orders for the mission. You remember receiving the first half of the payment. You remember communicating with the MENDELEEV Corp. You remember Dr. Lee coming aboard as a representative. You remember Hardy being assigned as the sort of sole Marine on the mission.
Okay.
You remember going into the cryopod, and you remember Rachel nodding to you as she pulled the lever to put you all into hypersleep. And then the next thing you remember is waking up 15 years later.
Okay. To that, then I will look at Rachel and say, I had another navigator before you. His name was Duke. Duke was a good android. And I'm hoping the same goes for you.
In the tension, the silence that fills the mess hall, the unfinished food on the plates, the song stops. And you hear the shk, 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 shk of the needle bumping against the grooves in the record. And in that silence that follows, you hear indicating that there is a message coming in on the type beam.
Okay, cool. Is there a way for me to access that from the mess hall, or do I need to go to the bridge?
You would have to go to the bridge to access it from the comm station.
Then immediately hearing that, I am up out of my seat and booking it toward the bridge.
What are the rest of you doing as he gets up and heads towards the bridge?
I would also go, since this is a direct alignment with my duties on the ship.
I think I was go as well, since I said we'd explore the ship together when it's really important that we check out this message anyway. So he'd be interested. Hardy'd be interested.
As Hardy starts to get up, Arthur would Lee would kind of try to like put an arm on his hand. Could you hold back for just a moment? I'd like to make sure that the cargo we're transporting is secure. And he seems a little like he looks a little frantic about it, like he just maybe realized something, and he's like, I'd like to make sure now would be a good time. And might be good to have you there with me just in case.
Yeah, this is a good time. Let's go right now before they notice.
Okay, so Lee and Hardy, you're going down to the cargo hold. Rachel and Lex, you head up to the bridge. As you get up to the bridge, Lex, you see the blinking light, and you hear the on the comm station.
Hello? Hello? And I'll hit the button. Like I don't know if it's like I don't think it works like walkie-talkie. Nearly,
No,
but like more like hitting a button just to hear it play back.
Yeah, essentially, like at this range, the messages have about a 20-minute delay, and so it's 40 minutes from when you send a message to when you hear back, because it's 20 minutes there, 20
so
minutes
it's
back.
So it's basically like interstellar telegram. Okay.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So you hit the comms to listen to the message. You hear static, and then you hear piano. And then you hear unforgettable playing over the comms, laced with static, but unmistakable.
I look to Rachel on the bridge with me. And I pause. If there's a way for me to like pause or stop the transmission. Is this some sort of sick joke?
I'm not following.
I forgot. You androids don't understand how to convey humor, so let me explain this to you the way that you just put that record on in the other room. I hit this button expecting to hear the voice of another person. And I hear that. Explain that to me.
Radio frequencies are known to continue bouncing off of celestial bodies and other structures. It is possible that our own radio is picking up sounds from within the Cassidy.
You can see that he progressively begins to get angry and frustrated. Listen. I don't remember much right now. But what I do know is this. I remember 3 things. Carter, Duke, and me. That was the original crew on this ship. You are the new anomaly. Do you understand? All 3 of you are a part of my crew now. If I find out that you were the reason that Carter is dead, oh, I have a whole hell of a lot of friends who will find a way to make you into a scrapyard. Do you understand?
You appeared to be exhibiting signs of extreme stress.
No shit.
Perhaps Dr. Lee can assist. It seems very odd that you would blame me for what has happened when I have no memory, just as you do not. All of this has happened before, but I cannot explain that.
Right. Hold on, I'm gonna try something. And then I hit the button again to see if there's a further transmission. See if maybe just maybe Rachel's right, and maybe it was just interference from the music. Reverb.
You hit a few switches on the comm station, type in some command lines into the terminal. The point of origin of this type beam message is the reactor signature that you're heading towards.
Okay. If I can hear that, I'm going to try and send my own back to the ship. Back to whatever this signal is. I want to try and send a volley message back to whatever that is. I mean, it could just be free.
radio frequencies, but I want to know for certain.
What do you say in your message that you send?
It's stupid, but I look down at my patch, and the patch says, "Fix me first." And that was something that Carter had said to him years ago, but it was something along the lines of, look, we can't get where we're going unless I fix you first. Right? We can't ever get where we're going unless I fix you first. Yeah, the ship is a ship and we can't move if I can't fix it, but we don't get there if I don't have a pilot to do it. So if I don't fix you first, we're not going anywhere. And so he put a patch on him that says, "Fix me first," to remind himself of that. So he's going to type that in, like he's going to try to send that signal and say, "Hey, assholes, fix me first." And like just send that out to see if anyone will physically reply back to him.
You do so, sending the tight beam, and you know that it'll be some time before you hear back. The lights of the cargo hold flicker on. Lee and Hardy, you are standing inside the massive hold of the Cassidy. This room takes up the bulk of the space of this ship. There are steel crates piled to the ceiling, containing medical supplies, food, everything from booze to fresh water to extra pillows and blankets for the science facility on Z32. But there's another crate. One plastered with the words, "Handle with care, property of MENDELEEV Corp." This crate is itself as large as the mess. Probably 10 feet high, 7 feet wide. This is the crate containing the real purpose of this mission. This is the crate that you, Hardy, were ordered to protect with your life.
This is also the crate that Lee makes a beeline for, and starts looking around for any sort of crowbar or lever tool that he can tear it open with. He seems frantic too, and he's not even trying to hide any of this. He even kind of says, "Hey, come help me. I need try to find something. We need to get this open. We need to look inside."
We were supposed to protect this, but I don't know if it matters now. Did they ever tell you what was inside?
He looks at you with a like a bit of frenzy in his eyes, and kind of shivers for a second, nods. I don't know a whole lot, but I know that we should see what's inside of this and see if anything is going on with it right now.
Okay. I guess I would grab one of my crowbars. I'm gonna help Lee open up this crate.
It takes a few minutes to pry it open. It's heavy steel bolted down, but you manage to, between the two of you, get the crowbar wedged in, pry the side open. It's dark inside, pitch black. Luckily, you have lights with you, and as you shine them in, you see nothing. The crate is completely empty.
Oh, wow. Would I be able to... I have infrared goggles that allow me to see if there's anything that's moved, I think, within a couple hours, like heat signatures. Would I be able to turn those on and check in there?
Yeah, you absolutely can. You click these on in your HUD, spend a few moments investigating. There was something in here, or someone, a few hours ago. Somebody opened this crate.
Okay. So I'll tell Dr. Lee, I'm like, something has been here in the last few hours. I can see his heat signatures.
The last few hours, we've been awake a few hours now. So something is. And he immediately spins around, starts shining his flashlight back out into the cargo hold, and lowers his voice. That means something is in the ship with us.
Do you think that someone had to let it out? Either there's someone. I doubt someone got on board. Do you think maybe Rachel could have done it? Something doesn't seem on the up and up here.
Maybe she knows more than she's letting on. I didn't know much about what this thing was, but I knew that it was something that needed to be moved. And he seems to kind of like catch himself as he starts to divulge what he knows, and let's get back to the others. It may not be safe to be down here. If it wasn't Rachel, then there is someone else on the ship.
Is there anything you could tell me that could be helpful in case is this thing dangerous? Do you know that?
I don't think it's anything alive, but I know it's nothing. And he kind of looks around and takes a deep breath. It's nothing earthly. Nothing human.
All right. Would I be able to use my infrared and kind of see if I could follow like a path that it made, like where it went throughout the ship?
Yeah, I'd say that you can. It takes some doing, but you manage to lock on to the specific signature of whoever came in this crate. And you follow the trail. It leads you up through the innards of the ship, back through the central corridor, past the mess, past cabins, and into the bridge. It leads directly to the main chair, the main console of the bridge.
Oh. So just the empty console chair where Rachel was sitting?
Yep.
Okay.
And as you enter, you see Lex sitting at the comm station and Rachel standing nearby.
What did you do with it, Rachel?
I'm sorry?
The crate was empty. Where did you put it? The thing that was inside there.
I'm afraid you must be mistaken, Dr. Lee.
No mistake. He tracked it all the way from the cargo hold. It led directly to the chair that you sit in when you pilot this ship in hyperspace.
I looked down as if looking for some tracks or whatever he's referring to. I'm afraid I don't understand, Dr. Lee. You're not making any sense.
I use my information. I tell Rachel I use my infravision goggles, and they lead right to this chair that you were in before we got out of cryo sleep. How do you explain that?
What exactly led to where I sit?
I tracked the heat signature from the crate in the cargo hold.
The
to
MENDELEEV
your
crate.
seat.
You know the crate we're talking about.
So I have in my equipment as an Android and with the thing we talked about, Matt, I imagine that the heads-up display is integrated into myself as an Android. And one of the things it allows me to do is to tap into somebody else's cams. And I'm going to remotely access Hardy's cam and try to see what he's seeing.
You wind back the footage, watching it in your mind's eye. You wind it back to the mess hall, and you see Lee grab Hardy and say, "We should go check on the crate. In the hold, we should go down before they notice." You see the two of them going down into the bowels of the ship, into the darkened cargo hold, and then ripping open a gigantic crate with a crowbar and finding nothing inside. You hear Lee saying, "Maybe Rachel knows more than she's letting on."
So I'm wondering, I'm trying to, while we're doing this, trying to search real fast in here. So maybe you can answer this for me. The heads up display, one of the things it says is that I have the ability to tap into others' smart link capabilities on their guns. Would that allow me to disable the smart link?
I would say that you could attempt to do that with some sort of check.
Because seeing this footage, I'm feeling the potential that there is a threat to me directly. And it's kind of like sticking a foot out and tripping somebody, but I think that would be a precaution. And with my background, I think that would be something I would try to do. So what kind of a check is that then?
So that would be I would say probably an intellect check.
Would that be military or computer? I guess they're both the same.
Yeah, I would say likely more military than computer.
Okay. Well, I'm only trained. I don't have expert or master in those, so It's still going to be the 10% bonus.
Cool.
Ironically, I'm going to roll my friendship dice. So, okay. So with my 10% bonus, my intellect is 43. I rolled a 44.
Which is a critical miss because
Is
it's
it really?
doubles. Yeah, if you roll doubles, it's either hit or miss depending on.
That's right. I didn't even think about that.
So here's what happens. You attempt to remotely hack into the SmartLink system on Hardy's SMG, the system that allows him to fire with pinpoint accuracy using his HUD. As you hack into the system, you see the usual code flying past your vision. And then you pick up something else. There's static. You hear unforgettable in your brain. And it gets stuck like a record skipping. Then it goes silent for a second and you hear a radio communication. And you're saying you can disable the hyperdrive without alerting suspicion? You hear Lex. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Hyperion Corporation would be eternally grateful if you could prevent that artifact from arriving on the science facility. We'll pay you very well. I have to think about it. Yeah, it would go a long way in paying off my debts, but well, I've never not done a job. We understand completely. We hope you know that this conversation is being broadcasted in the strictest confidentiality. Whether or not you decide to tamper with the hyperdrive, this conversation remains between us. Well, I appreciate that. I'll let you know.
I would immediately turn to Lex. And I imagine during this exchange, from everybody else's perspective, I'm just not responding to Dr. Lee and then suddenly turn to Lex. So, a good 30, 40, 50 seconds passes without me saying anything. This has happened before. But it was you, I say to Lex.
Lex is sitting at the comms. Now, did he overhear that or just Rachel?
Just Rachel heard it. As
Just
she
Rachel heard that
reached
part.
out to hack into the SmartLink system, she somehow came upon that radio communication.
Okay. Well, then, yep, that definitely... What are you talking about? What do you mean it was me? You woke me up from hyperdrive, from sleep. You know that I was sleeping.
There seems to be a lot of discrepancy between what we know and what actually has happened. What I do know is that Carter, as the ship engineer, would have certain expertise dealing with the ship's functions. The only other person that would have that level of expertise and intimate knowledge of its hyperdrive system would be you.
Don't try to deflect onto him. We all know what's going on here. You're just trying to make us blame each other. We followed the trail right here. Where did you put whatever was in that crate?
Would I have, Matt, any knowledge of the cargo manifest or this crate of which he's speaking?
You would know that there was a crate with undisclosed cargo listed as scientific materials on the dossier.
Dr. Lee, I know the entire ship's cargo manifest, but I do not know of what you are speaking. Regardless, I fail to see how the contents of scientific materials, foodstuffs, and other things to aid in the scientific facility have anything to do with Lexington disabling the the hyperdrive on this ship.
At this repeated denials, Lee kind of, it just explodes. Damn it, Rachel! You knew it was an alien artifact. You know that. You must have known that. You took it out. It has to have something to do with what's going on. This can't be a coincidence.
Now, everybody just calm down, will ya? Calm down. First of all, we're not going to sit here and have a blaming party on my ship. Do you understand? Rachel,
If you'll pardon me, there's a difference between blame, which Dr. Lee seems to be providing uncorroborated stories and barely circumstantial evidence. However, and I don't know if this would be possible, so you can just say no, Matt, but if it's possible, I would like to audibly play back the recording that I heard.
Because I want to see what happens, I will allow it.
So I imagine it's just kind of like emanating from almost like from my ears, turning that technology to work as speakers and just playing back that same transmission of Lexington's voice.
And you all hear this conversation between Lexington and a representative of Hyperion Corp, a rival of MENDELEEV. You hear them offer Lexington a sum of money to tamper with the hyperdrive and prevent the alien artifact from arriving on C-32.
shit.
You son of a bitch.
Hold on. Let's not. Did you listen to it? I said I'd think about it. I didn't. Look, yes, I had that meeting with Hyperion. I did. Carter and I weren't doing well. We thought maybe, just maybe, there was a reason for what we needed to get. Maybe we could get an extra score because God knows that your company wasn't paying us what we needed. So I took a meeting. I thought about it. But at the end of the day, I couldn't pull the trigger. Do you understand? This ship is mine! 5 years I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this ship. Carter and I have painstakingly gone through every nut and bolt in this ship. And yeah, as much as that money made it sound good, I couldn't do it.
You expect me to think you still took this job knowing there was a sabotage hit out on it? You would still fly knowing that Hyperion was paying that kind of money to ground you. How stupid do you think I am?
Listen, Lee, if I wanted to ground you, do you know what I'd do? I would find the nearest asteroid belt and jam this damn thing into anything I could hit. But I haven't, have I? No. Now try to blame me again.
Lee kind of looks to Hardy and his gun. I don't think we can trust Lexington or Rachel right now, Hardy. I think we might need to take control of this ship until things are established and we understand what's really going on here.
Listen to me, you little pissant. You're on my bridge right now, and you are actively telling me you want to commit mutiny?
It looks like you wanted to before. And we're stuck here in the middle of nowhere. It looks like you could. If anyone would sabotage, it'd be you.
I can't believe this.
I thought I trusted you.
Yeah, well,
I need to take a walk. The rest of y'all cool off, and I will be back on my bridge when all this is done.
I'm afraid I can't let you do that, Lexington. And I will physically try to stop you from moving off the bridge.
What?
The evidence is there, and it does not look good for you. With any indication that you may have sabotaged this ship, I don't believe it is a good idea to let you go wandering unsupervised.
Then follow me. You know where I'm going to go right now? To prove all of you wrong. I'm going to go and look at the goddamn hyperdrive. That was my goal right now, was to go look at it. Because I know for a fact, at least I hope, what I can remember, I didn't touch it before I went down.
Hardy, would you accompany Lexington to the hyperdrive?
Why don't we all go? I think it might be best for none of us to get out of sight of any of the others at this moment.
What the hell did you bring on my ship, Lee?
It was my ticket off world, and that's all I needed to know. It's not my fault. Don't even try to throw that my way.
What were you saying, Rachel?
Dr. Lee and I should stay here. If Dr. Lee feels he cannot trust me, he can keep an eye on me while I make sure that we are still on course for that ship there. While Hardy escorts Lexington to the hyperdrive, I can monitor his cameras, and we can have an eye on them as well.
Fair point. Fine. If you hear back, message relay it to me. Understand?
I just give a curt nod.
Good. All right. Boy Scout, you want to leave me out?
After you.
So you head down to engineering, where the hyperdrive is stored. As you enter the room, you see the dark and dim drive sitting there, silent and cold. What specifically do you want to look for, Lex?
I know this hyperdrive chamber, but I don't know it nearly as good as Carter was. I am not an engineer, nor am I versatile, like expertised in hyperspace. But I am specifically going to look for any physical damages, anything that would have come through here and maliciously attacked this space.
Why don't you give me a intellect check? And if you, let's see, if you have anything like vehicles, or let's see, what else? Well, what all do you have there?
So I have mechanical repair.
Okay. Yep.
Astrogation, and I also have scavenging. So
okay, I'll allow you to use the mechanical repair.
Okay.
So that will give you a +10 to your intellect for this check.
Okay. And I needed to roll under my intellect.
Correct.
And then that's a plus, like, so a +10 or so it's an additional like -10.
So it increases effectively, yes, but it increases your intellect by 10 for the purpose.
By 10. Okay. So it like I'm trying to beat a 40 instead of a 30 right now.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And so I got a 28. So
Okay.
I would have, yeah.
So you take a few moments, you're kind of looking over the hyperdrive. At first glance, there is nothing wrong with it, despite the fact that it experienced a critical failure and cut out. But then you notice something inside. A loose bolt on the core. Just enough where it's not seated correctly. The bolt shouldn't be loose. You know it shouldn't be loose. You know that Carter tightens every bolt on this hyperdrive before every trip aboard the Cassidy. If there's a loose bolt on this hyperdrive core, somebody loosened it.
Shit. And he looks at it. And is he getting anything? Flashes, any sort of memory as he's looking at this option, as he's looking at this object right now, as he's looking at that bolt? Am I getting any feedback mentally from seeing this? Because my thought process is this. Right now, I know as a character that that's not something that he would have intentionally done. But I don't know the last 15-year span from point of falling asleep and waking up. I don't remember that gap. So if I did something, I don't know it.
That's the thing, is that you know with every fiber of your being that you wouldn't have done this. You know you wouldn't have. But you don't remember not doing it. And as you're sitting there looking at this loose bolt, feeling the looseness of the drive core, you wonder, was I so desperate? Am I capable of doing this?
Yeah. And I think it's just a loose bolt, Hardy. I'll fix it and we should be okay now.
Whatever
And
we
I-
need to do to get out
yeah.
of here. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think he'll attempt to try to. Yeah.
It's an easy enough thing to tighten the bolt. But whatever happened to the drive core shorted it out, drained it completely.
Yeah.
Even tightening the bolt, you know that the hyperdrive isn't going to get you anywhere without a new drive core.
Hey, Hardy, can you use those eyes of yours and see if anybody's been in here recently?
Okay. Yeah, I'll put on my heat signatures. Look for them through my goggles. Do I see anything in there?
You don't. If there was someone in here, it was long enough ago that you're not detecting anything.
Okay. Because I got nothing. Is there Is it repaired now, or?
I mean, it's repaired, but it won't work unless we get a new one.
Okay. Says
Whatever they did, whatever has been done, this thing shorted out when it happened. So it's not like I can just screw it back on and all of a sudden we can take off.
well,
Shit.
hopefully that other ship maybe has something.
Maybe we can go and steal their hard drive, huh?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm sorry back there. It might not be you, but we can't roll out anything. But we still have to work together to get through this.
I understand. Just don't point a gun at an innocent man, right?
I'll try not to. Do we head back to the bridge now?
I would say that he's going to do a quick once over of the entire room. Lex is going to walk the entire room just to see if there's anything else out of the ordinary in here. Outside of that, they'll probably head back toward the bridge after that.
Okay.
Lex, you do a sort of cursory once over of the engineering room. And you're about to leave when you catch sight of something out of the corner of your eye. There's someone in here. You hear you follow the whistle and you see Carter. He's kneeling, whistling, tightening the bolts with his ratchet.
Yeah, I kind of picture this room being like just rows and rows of mechanical machinery and stuff, and just one, like if one small spot of that whole hyperdrive goes out, the whole thing shuts down, right? So and then I turn that corner and I see that familiar olive green, like, members jacket, you know, like the machinists union duster green, covered in oil slick and all this stuff. And for a minute, I give in. For a minute, I feel my feet begin to kind of hit the metal one after the other after the other. And I know in the back of my head he's gone, but it sounds so real. And I go to place my hand on Carter's shoulder.
You reach out, put your hand on his shoulder. He whirls on you. Shit! Lex, you're supposed to be in your pod, man. What are you doing down here?
Carter? Is that really you?
Yeah, it's me.
I'm sorry I woke up early. How long you been
Wait a minute. If you're here. And then like he literally takes hold of your face. Touches it. Hardy, get over here.
Hardy's not there. As you are looking for Hardy and then you turn back, Carter is looking at you intensely, his eyes boring into you, and he says, "I'm sorry, Lex. I didn't mean for it to go this bad. I'm sorry, Lex." He begins decaying in your hands. He ages 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. In seconds, he's turned into the gaunt, emaciated corpse that you found in the cryopod, and then he turns to ash and filters through your fingers. And then you're falling to the deck, to your knees. And Hardy is beside you, trying to help you up.
You're right. Let's get you up.
Oh, no. Nope, I'm not. I'm okay. I'm all right. Being in this room just gives me a whole hell of a lot of memories. I saw him. Hardy. I saw him. My own two eyes right here. You didn't see him?
No. But I saw him earlier in the mess. Clear as day. Something strange is going on.
Yeah. Let's get back to the bridge. He looks down at his hands, and are his hands covered in ash right now?
No, there's nothing.
I think I'm going to need a stiff drink when we get back.
If we make it through it, and I'll buy you one. Come on, let's get going. Pat him on the back.
Back on the bridge, Rachel, you overheard the conversation that they had, and then you saw Lexington speaking to somebody that wasn't there. And then you saw him collapse into a heap and begin sobbing.
I think all Dr. Lee would see is, as I'm standing there, just my eyes sort of moving around as if I'm looking at something there, almost like an open-eyed REM sleep, I think. Just rapidly moving around. But I don't relay anything that I've seen to Dr. Lee.
And he's kind of just staring at her through slits, and he's you're watching them, aren't you? Like you were watching us before.
I am.
He just shakes his head, crosses his arms, and leans back against the comm panel and just continues watching in silence.
Does this bother you, Dr. Lee?
I've grown accustomed to it, but he kind of shrugs, taps a patch on his jumpsuit, says, "Smile, Big Brother is watching." It's not something that you're ever 100% comfortable with. There's a reason I wanted to get a little further away.
A little further away from what, Dr. Lee?
C-32. I heard it was a good place to be. It's a decent enough distance away from the inner planets. It's not just kind of shakes his head. Just would have been nice to not have eyes on me all the time. The man yearns for a bit of privacy. And he's just kind of staring at you fairly coldly.
In my experience, Dr. Lee, those who crave privacy the most are those with something to hide. Do you have something to hide?
It's been 15 years, and we're in the middle of nowhere. As far as I know, I have nothing at all, except the clothes I'm wearing and my medical kit. So no, at this moment, I will say I have absolutely nothing to hide.
Well, then you can't get any more away from it all than we are now, currently.
I suppose you're right.
But you don't seem to be enjoying it.
Two people and an android is not necessarily the company I envisioned spending the rest of my life with. So, you're right. I hope we can get back to at least some semblance of civilization. He'll sit down and see if he can start just keeping himself busy after this conversation has kind of got him amped up, and he's going to start looking, trying to see if they're close enough to scan anything new about the reactor signature that they're going towards. The big thing he's curious about, I'm assuming he heard the transmission from them, or if not, he'll listen to it. He wants to compare it to their own ship's reactor signature, or what the standard should be, what the logs might say the standard reactor signature would be.
Yeah, you can do so if you want to give me an intellect check, and if you have computers, you can add that as well.
I do not, and I did not do well, so no.
Dr. Lee, would it not be better if I were to do what you are attempting to do? No offense, but you are a scientist, and I am in charge of the systems on this ship.
Of course, I just wanted to stay busy. And he kind of thinks about it for a moment. I'll go to the cryopods again. I want to look into what happened with Carter. As you say, you're computer and systems. I'm the medical doctor. So he'll head back that way.
I will reach out and physically grab your wrist like I did before. Dr. Lee, you seem to be upset. I think you need to sit down calmly.
I just need to keep my hands busy. I'll be fine.
By your own words, we should not be out of each other's eyesight.
Then come help me drag the body into here. I need something to do. You can see he's looking a little jittery, like he's just impatient and angry.
Do you want me to scan the ship, or do you want to investigate the pods?
Scan the damn ship. I'll check the body afterwards. And he just sits down again on the floor, like not even worrying with a seat.
When he sits down, I'll release him, and I will go ahead and attempt to scan. Doesn't matter what dice I use. 58, so that's a fail.
You attempt to scan again, and even though the scan is inconclusive, you do notice one thing, Rachel. Based on the speed you are traveling, The ship is much closer than it should be. The reactor signature, it's moving toward you.
It would appear this other craft is moving in our direction. That can be the only answer for why it is so close. We should not be as close as we are. Perhaps we will have some answers sooner rather than later.
He'll stand back up when you say that the ship is moving towards, and he'll just kind of peer over your shoulder at the panel as if he understands any of it. They're moving towards us.
Yes.
Okay.
And if it makes you feel any better, Hardy and Lex reached the engine room and determined that the hyperdrive support bolt had become loose. The bolt has been tightened, however, the hyperdrive is damaged. So there is some value in, and I would glance at your patch, Big Brother keeping an eye out.
He'll take a deep breath, try to calm himself. All right. Let's wait for them to get back, but I don't know. He just looks a little unsure. He said, something's still nagging me about the body. I still want to check it out. There didn't seem to be anything particularly wrong with the pod, but I don't know.
I would accompany him then, having completed the scan. If you're going to go that way, I'll go with.
Yeah, and he'll wait till you're completely done. He'll be trying to be a little more patient this time and let you actually come with. Like,
Matt, I want to try something. As Dr. Lee leaves the room, I want to hesitate a couple steps. And I want to attempt, without him noticing, to get a particular piece of equipment out of a storage locker on the bridge.
Okay. You can certainly try. I'll go ahead and have you make a speed test, opposed by Dr. Lee's intellect.
What I'm attempting to grab is my submachine gun.
Okay.
So can I apply my military training bonus to this?
I will allow you to do so.
Okay, so I'm trying to beat a 62. And I rolled a 16.
Okay. So the way that opposed checks work in this game is you are trying to roll under, but as high as possible without going over.
Oh. Okay, so I got a 16. Oh, no.
I rolled a 41 out of 43. I thought I was screwed.
So you, as you're walking out of the room, Lee, you turn around and you see Rachel reaching into a locker.
What are you doing? And he kind of has his hand start to reach to his pocket.
I believe this is what some would refer to as insurance. I don't think, given the current circumstances, it is such a good idea that Hardy is the only one with a weapon on this vessel.
He'll pause for a moment considering this, and he'll walk back towards her. And does the locker have a couple rifles, or is it just your rifle in there?
There is basically, I was just RPing that my loadout was in the storage locker because it didn't make sense for me to carry a submachine gun and some fragmentation grenades.
Fair. Yeah.
Or things could have escalated a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, there would be the rest of my loadout would be in there. Most of the stuff is integrated into my Android body. But yeah, there's a belt of fragmentation grenades and some stim packs, an electronic toolkit. But I have the SMG in my hand.
Yeah, he's not comfortable with this, but he also doesn't feel like he has any strong way of stopping it. So he'll just kind of maneuver himself like, all right, well, you stay in front of me. And don't try to hide anything again like that. Be honest with me, and I might trust you.
Would it make you feel better if you held the machine gun?
Oh boy. He'll look at it and say, you know what? If we don't get out of here, we're all going to suffocate or starve, so to hell with it. You keep it.
Okay. Then I will not disable or attempt to disable the trigger.
It's about this time that Lex and Hardy come back up from the engineering room, meeting you guys in the bridge as you're moving out.
Any word, Rachel?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, Chad.
Any word? Like any callback while you guys were in the bridge?
Based on our current speed and the position of the other vessel, it appears we are much closer to it than expected. My summation is the vehicle is moving towards us. We may intercept much sooner than expected.
Okay, so it's not a station. It's a vehicle. Get a good look at it? Is it close enough to see?
You would know, Rachel, that you'll be within visual range probably within a half hour.
We'll be within visual range within a half hour.
Okay, then. Well, I'll get on the bridge in about that time, so we can navigate if we need to around him. I'll call to see if we can board, and we'll go from there. But for now, hyperdrive has been fixed, so we can't do anything with it because it's fried. But at least something won't go wrong further. What's our next step? What do we do now? Just sit here with our hands on our butts, waiting for that vessel to get here?
Well, if we are able to get that ship in range and they're willing to help us, and even somehow by some miracle we are able to get ourselves another core, we'll have to go back in those pods. So I want to do a full autopsy of Carter. I want to make sure that that nothing in those pods is threatening us if we go back in, because we may be spending another 15 years in there if we figure out a way back.
Right. Make sure it's clean and tidy then. Okay?
Of course, I know you were close. I won't ask you to sit in on it.
I don't know. He looks to Rachel. You had eyes on us. Did you see what I saw?
I did. I saw you discovered what was wrong with the hyperdrive, and you fixed it as best you were able to do so.
Oh, no, not that. While we were in the room, you're gonna think I'm a dumbass. But while we were in the room, I overheard whistling. That same bullshit whistling Carter always used to do when he'd get really comfortable in his work. Didn't think anybody was around, didn't think anybody was listening, so he just sat down and started whistling. And I swore I could see him. I swore I could feel him. I saw him again, Rachel. I saw him. And in the same instance, he just fell apart in my hands. How do you explain that? How do you explain away that?
You appear to be under a great deal of stress. Perhaps you should sit down and think things over.
Maybe you should come with me to the medical bay, Lex. I'd like to maybe run a scan on you, on your brain, see if something's going wrong. Maybe the pod did something. Well, Hardy too. He heard voices. He saw things.
I'm not a psycho.
I'm not saying anything of the sort. I'm saying that maybe the pod did something. Maybe it left something. Maybe something we can take care of. Maybe there's a gas leak. I haven't noticed any of these strange things, but I'm sure that there's an explanation for what you and Hardy have been noticing. We can let's get you both to the med bay. If we're going to be making contact within, if we have visual range in half an hour, we should have enough time to at least run a scan on one of you. See if there's something we can fix.
All of this has happened before.
Fine. Let's shut up, Rachel. Shut up. Fine. Let's get me scanned or whatever you need to do.
Rachel, would you be willing to carry the engineer to the med bay with us? I'm going to perform his autopsy while the scan is underway.
I can do that. I don't imagine it would be too much difficulty to pick up this body and carry it.
No, it almost weighs nothing. You head into the med bay carrying the corpse of Carter. Doctor, what do you want to do first? Do you want to perform an autopsy? Do you want to try to do some brain scans on Hardy? Or
yeah, I want to start with a scan of Lex.
Okay.
I think that's the priority right now, because I think he's going to be necessary to connecting with this other vessel and doing it well. So
yeah, go ahead and give me an intellect check and any skills that you might have that would help.
Okay, I got my medical scanner equipment. So that
would give you advantage.
Okay, and then I got biology.
Yeah, that'll help too.
Okay, so that's that's a success actually with the extra 10. So so it would be a basic success, and I already forgot if it was doubles or not, but I don't think it was.
Okay, cool. So I imagine it's one of those brain scanners where you like put the little nodules on the person's temple and run your scan.
Yeah, it looks like one of those like 50s hairdresser things, but like you put the nodules on and then you lower this big skull cap over them, and you have to like kind of strap in.
Absolutely. So you run this brain scan on Lex, and you do detect abnormalities. There's something strange, something you can't quite pinpoint. Brain waves, brain activity unlike you've ever seen. And as this brain scan is happening, Lex, your eyes kind of roll back in your head. And you wake up in your cryopod. 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 Happens again and again and again and again and again and again and again. You see it happen 1,000 times, 2,000 times. And then you're back in the med bay. And you're not sure if it's the first time or the 10,000th time that you've sat here in this med bay. Sanity save, please.
Okay, good. I was gonna ask, like, you don't finish that sentence and then not have me do something with it. So yeah, okay, cool. Sanity save, rolling the percentile die, right? Let's see.
Yep, correct. It's percentile. Trying to roll under.
Oh, that's wonderful. 89. Because that's, 89. I don't know what
okay.
that. I don't even.
So I'm gonna go ahead and, so go ahead and add 2 more stress, and then we're gonna have you roll on the panic table.
Thank goodness he's strapped down.
I mean, wow, perfect timing. Okay.
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna roll 2d10, just a regular 2d10, no percentile. Yep. And add your stress to that roll and tell me what you get.
Okay, so regular 2d10, and then add the stress to the roll. Okay. Okay. Ooh, so 16 plus 6.
22.
22, yeah.
Okay. You are now paranoid. Not that you weren't before, but now you are like medically paranoid, experiencing paranoid delusions. As you wake up, you're positive that the doctor is making this happen, that he's been messing with your brains, that something in that injection that he gave you when you came out of the cryopod is making these hallucinations happen.
Sweet. So I'm strapped down. But have you undone any of the strappings? Am I still like locked in?
Yeah, no, definitely still locked in. He was kind of waiting. He was like reading the results as they were processing, and saw you kind of, eyes rolled back and kind of.
So he looks directly at you, but his eyes are sort of listless, like they're just like hanging there. What did you do to me?
I definitely found something abnormal. There was
not
activity.
What you did right now. Not what you did right now. What'd you do to me earlier? You quackpot.
No, hold on.
Crazy psycho.
Whoa,
and he's like yanking at he's yanking at the straps, and like I would imagine that if all of these little hookups and stuff are like attached to the back of the helmet, you just hear him like whipping his neck back and forth, and like pieces of the cords are kind of pulling out.
Stop. Careful. You're going to damage the machine. I have to run a scan on Hardy next.
I'm gonna damage you, you piece of garbage.
Calm down. You're all right. It's okay.
I'm not okay. And it's all because of you. You came on my ship, right? I let you come on my ship. I let you put your things on my ship. It's your fault that I'm seeing all of this bullshit, isn't it?
And Lee is looking to Hardy and Rachel with a bit of panic in his eyes. Like, what should we sedate him?
If you would allow me to, Matt, I'd like to try to roll and see if I can break my restraints.
Yep.
In utter sheer panic, I would like to try to break the restraints.
Yeah. So give me a strength check.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you advantage because you are essentially pumped full of adrenaline right now from this vision that you've just experienced.
Okay, cool. Actually, I did way under. So my strength is 41, and I rolled a 7.
Okay. Go ahead and roll again with your advantage just to make sure that you don't get a critical success.
21.
Okay, so no critical success, but you manage to wrench your right arm free of the bonds on the arm of the chair. Your right arm is free. You see Dr. Lee. He's probably backed up a little bit off of you, but is still standing within range of you. And you see a table, a stainless steel table with medical supplies on it, including several scalpels.
Okay. Do I see my pack around me at all anywhere, or like anything that would have been my things nearby?
Yeah, if you would have just like set it down in the room, it would be nearby.
Okay. So if it's anywhere near the chair, I'm going to reach the free hand down and grab my rigging gun and just start waving it around the room. Keep in mind, it's basically like a mini harpoon gun.
Yeah.
And I'm just like flailing this thing around. Get off of me.
Lexington has drawn out a rigging gun, which again is a weapon used to tether yourself to objects in space. And he draws it out and waves it around with his free hand, having escaped the bonds.
Do I know how close the med bay is to the outer bulkhead? Like, are we in? If he fires this thing in here, is there like a good chance that he could pierce the outside shell of our?
Yes.
Okay.
This is all the rooms on the Cassidy are essentially off of a central corridor that runs through the center of the ship. So every room is next to an exterior bulkhead.
He's just waving it around threateningly. Yeah.
Yeah. Lee will
He's just waving it.
Jump back behind a table and upend a table if he can, or what? Like, it's probably bolted down actually, so he's probably just gonna like try to take whatever cover he can and start rummaging through his supply bag, trying to find his stun baton, hoping that he can try to tranquilize this maniac waving a deadly weapon around an enclosed space vessel.
I believe this is your area of expertise, Hardy.
Yeah. So while I'm saying this, can I try to tackle Lex?
Yeah, if you want to
restrain him, so he can
check to try to disarm and restrain him.
Okay.
And if you want to add your military training, you can, and you'll need to oppose this, Lex. So also, please give me a strength check.
I already rolled over.
All right.
Man.
I rolled a 44. My
is that under your strength?
Just slightly over. So I was at 41 and I rolled a 44.
So you don't manage to restrain him, Hardy, but you do sort of close the distance and are now right up on him, and are able to sort of like, you maybe grab his arm that's holding the rigging gun.
Yeah, and as this is going on, I'm like, we need to calm down right now. Any of us going loose in here could kill us all. We have another situation out there, ship coming in. We don't know if they're hostile or not. We need to keep our cool here. As I'm telling Lex this. Although probably not helping trying to grab him.
You're taking his side? That bastard put something in my neck earlier. He said it would help me. He said it was going to make me better.
You're a lunatic. That was nothing but adrenaline and caffeine. That was just a booster shot. You're fine. This has nothing to do with me. He's still cowering behind a table.
So says the rat who's hiding. If it wasn't for you, I bet you Carter'd still be alive right now.
What are you hoping to accomplish, Lex? What are you trying to do?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I just kind of motion with my eyes and my head at the rigging gun still in your hand.
Gotta have somebody to blame, don't I?
Do you? As I'm talking, I'm moving closer. And I picture Hardy sort of kind of tried to tackle him and succeeded only in just grabbing his hand and maybe pushing it away, holding this rigging gun. And I'm going to walk up until the rigging gun is directly pointed at my chest. Everybody's looking for somebody to blame. But none of us are looking at ourselves. And now, you and your actions are threatening all of us. As quick as I can, I'm going to attempt to snap his wrist and break the gun out of his hand, literally.
Okay, so I imagine that would probably either be strength or speed.
I am I'm a speed-based android.
Let's go with speed, and that'll be an opposed check. Lex, if you also want to make a speed check.
With military training?
Yep.
None of these dice have been great to me, so let's just grab a set. So, all right. So in the opposed one, I want to roll as high as possible without going over.
Yep.
Price. Right, so 62 is the number. Yeah, 81 is over.
So what am I trying to do? Trying to go higher or lower?
So you're trying to get as close to your speed as possible without going over.
Okay. I went extremely over. I'm at 95. So, yeah, my speed is 47. So.
Yeah. So you don't succeed in exactly what you want to do, Rachel, but you do better than Lex. So describe what happens here as you attempt to break his wrist and remove the rigging gun from his grasp.
Lexington is being very erratic Plus, he doesn't have full control of his own arm because Hardy is sort of has a hold of it. So there's this weird trade-off of tension going between Lexington and Hardy. And it just causes me to completely misjudge. And as I reach out in an attempt to disarm him, instead of grabbing his wrist, I grab his hand. And because I'm an android, if you'll allow it, I'm going to pivot slightly. And I imagine I accidentally cause his hand to fire the rigging gun. And it just, whatever this mechanism is, I'm picturing it like a harpoon kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a mini harpoon.
It is just, there's just that sort of almost muffled, and this harpoon is now sticking through my side, piercing out the back on my right side. But I don't cry out or do any, have any human type reaction. So I didn't disarm him, but maybe caused us both a problem, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to roll some damage for this rigging gun. 12 damage.
Where even is health? I didn't even see that on here.
So health is it's on the top of the sheet, and it's going to be
that's right,
strength.
2 times your strength. I did remember seeing that.
Health, yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay,
you see this essentially a harpoon go through Rachel, and there's this spray of this milky white substance that explodes out from her as the harpoon protrudes from the other side. You see it open up and kind of pull and lock on her back, locking in place like a grappling hook.
Lee will kind of pop his head up over the table, hearing this pop noise, and immediately his sort of training rush kind of comes back, and he rushes over, so almost forgetting about Lexington and his sort of manic moment, and goes towards Rachel to see how bad the damage is and to assess if she's particularly injured from this thing or if anything vital was hit.
He's been disarmed. Hardy, perhaps now you can restrain him.
Okay. Yeah, as this is going on, I'm just like, what are you doing? Just grab the sedative. I'm going to try to hold him down while you get it.
I'm going to push Dr. Lee kind of out of the way. And I just imagine this sight of walking with this harpoon sticking through me, just moving like it's not really a trouble. And just gently pushing past Dr. Lee to go get the tranquilizer. And then I will place it into Dr. Lee's hand. I believe this is your job.
Yes, of course. I look down at the harpoon again, but then back over to Lex. It's okay. It's okay. This is good. This will be good. Okay.
No, not again. Not again. I have to pilot the ship.
It's okay. It's okay. I didn't give you enough to knock you all the way out. we just wanted to calm you down a little bit. We don't want you out. Just want you a little bit less agitated. It's okay.
I have to pilot the ship.
It's okay.
We're gonna have to pilot it. There has to be a pilot.
As he's sort of drifting off, not falling asleep, but sort of going slack in the chair, you hear beep, 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 proximity alarm from the bridge.
Would Rachel be the next one who would know what to do in this situation since our pilot is?
I would
thinking.
think I would immediately go to attend to this. And as I go to move through the door, I sort of get caught on the edge where these harpoon has opened, catches on the edge of the door frame and stops. Maybe there's another spray of this milky white substance. And I just turn back to look at the others. I'll look down and I'll just grab this harpoon and just push it through, pull it back through the other side, and now leaking white fluid everywhere, move towards the bridge. Did I take more damage from pulling that thing out?
You do. You take an additional D10. I went ahead and rolled it. You take 6 more damage as you take the harpoon out.
I'll see what the problem is. And maybe there's a little bit of this white, just a little dribble of this white stuff down the corner of my mouth. And just my speech is just a little bit stuttery.
Rachel, if there's a message, broadcast it to the whole ship. We'd like to hear, but I'm going to keep working on Carter now that the captain's a little slowed down.
Of course, Dr. Lee, I will do that.
You move towards the bridge, Rachel, and you see that there is not a message, but rather the other ship. You see it in the viewport. It's almost jarring to see something so close after staring at the blackness of space for nearly a day now. The ship is heavily damaged. You see its engines barely sputter. You can tell by the various holes in the hull there is no air inside. Likely no gravity. And yet the ship is unmistakable. As it floats past the viewport, you see in the floodlights CASSIDY. Faded, but still there. The Cassidy moves to dock.
I don't broadcast anything back to them. Knowing the state that everybody's in, I am going to go by myself to where this docking port would be. And actually, I should probably check, since I imagine when I carried the body and then this whole ordeal, I've had this submachine gun sort of slung over my shoulder. I'm going to pull it around and see, is anything wrong with the submachine gun? Did it get damaged from the harpoon?
No, seems okay.
All right, then I will move alone towards the airlock.
You do so. You hear the distinct locking as the other ship docks. You stand in an antechamber, doors on either side. The door leading to the other ship opens, and all of the air in the room is pulled out into the vacuum. Luckily, you're an android and don't need air. You see mirrored and yet different, older more decrepit and decayed, the innards of the Cassidy greet you.
Is there gravity?
There is not.
Good thing I specialized in 0G. I'm gonna. So I'm in the airlock and have the passageway towards. I'm gonna push off. If there's no gravity, I'm just gonna push off and maneuver through. I can see this sort of ambient light, maybe even the spillback from the floodlights, causing the shadows of through this airlock area. And as I push off, you can see the shadows moving across me, and there's just this trail of these beads, these orbs of the white liquid flowing from my wounds as I move towards the other Cassidy.
You move through the corridors of this other ship, this other Cassidy. You know it well, and yet you can tell that this ship is so much older. You move past the med bay, and as you look in, you see barely a skeleton, a decrepit corpse in a faded jumpsuit, pinned to the wall of the med bay with the harpoon of a rigging gun. You see a patch on this corpse's chest that reads, "Smile, Big Brother is watching." You keep moving through the ship, and you soon encounter another corpse, floating past in a vac suit. The faceplate is shattered, and the vac suit itself is riddled with bullets from an SMG. The patch on the jumpsuit's shoulder reads, "Fix me first." You keep moving through the ship. You pass the mess hall. Another corpse here, floating still. The vac suit of this corpse is armored. You see an SMG looped around the corpse's shoulder. This one died as asphyxiation, ran out of air. And yet you know it's Hardy. You don't know why, you don't know how, but you find yourself in the cargo hold, drawn inexplicably to it. At the center of the cargo hold is a massive crate. Its side is open, and you see within, though it is dark, the striking outline of a massive stone obelisk. There's no sound here. You're in a perfect vacuum. And yet the obelisk inside seems to hum. So black that it seems to drink in any light around it. A figure floats from behind the obelisk. And Rachel, you know who it is before you see them. You. The other Rachel comes to float next to you. She looks down at the wound, shaking her head. Through the computer psychic link that all androids share, she speaks without moving her lips. Successful cycle, she says. You seem to have fared even worse than last time.
All of this has happened before. And it's almost a question.
She nods to you, and as she does so, she's hitting buttons on a data pad on her wrist. This has happened many times before, and it will happen many times yet again. She looks back at the obelisk. It was Carter who tampered with the hyperdrive. But this artifact, it allows us to keep trying. Someday, maybe we will make it home.
Then let's try again.
Beginning cycle 12,387. Rachel, you sit on the bridge of the Cassidy. You stare at a expanse of stars stretching on infinitely. You don't know how you got on the bridge, but you're sitting here at the console, and you can't help but feel that you've been here before. And that is where we will end our session.
That was awesome.
That was great.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So that is Mothership, which is awesome for running space horror. We didn't like fight any aliens or do anything insane in this game, but it worked perfectly for like Call of Cthulhu style psychological horror. This was so much fun. I had absolutely nothing prepped. I just ran off of everything you guys threw at me, which was great. I couldn't have asked for a better group of players to do that with. So I'm going to toss it over to you guys to do outros, and then we'll go ahead and call it here. So we'll start from my left to right. Go ahead, Austin.
Well, so just first of all, thank you. It was a blast of a game. It was a ton of fun. I've just recently started reading the Expanse series, and I haven't seen the show yet, but that made this like even better because I just kept picturing it in that same sort of tech style. And yeah, I have nothing to plug or anything. Just wanted to say thanks a lot. That was a great game. I had a ton of fun.
Awesome. Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, dude, this was fantastic. I always love when I get a chance to hang out and play with you guys. But this was super cool. Call of Cthulhu meets sci-fi-ish stuff. Yes, please, all the time. Like, that was super cool. I just love this game, top to bottom. Thank you guys so much. The only thing I have to plug right now is that on Monday, the 29th, I believe, I am going to be hanging out with Alan from Check for Traps. And we're doing a Batman Fate game where I'm very excited to be a part of that. So, yeah. That is all I got on board, but thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you for always being the player that just...
Dude, I'm gonna go ham every day, man.
Yep. I was so excited to have you in this game because you just if someone's gonna go crazy, it's gonna be Chad's character. All right, Jake, go ahead, man.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I've played some space horror before with Chad, actually, in which Chad and I were a ex-husband and wife in a Megan run space horror using Harbinger.
That game was amazing, but very like
Mission 99 on Dice on Ice RPG on YouTube it was so much fun playing off of Chad with that. But this was a blast. Just getting to, I mean, I love being able to look down at the little thumbnail when we were RPing and just see Matt lean back with a grin on his face as we were just doing his work for him. This is such a great group of players to play off of, especially since none of us have ever played this before. Matt running it the first time. I thought this was incredible. I really like the system. I had mentioned before we were on air, this is only the second time I played a D10 roll under game, having played one session of Call of Cthulhu 7. But I really liked it. I like that it kind of flips everything that I'm used to on its head. Quick plug. I'm Mini Terrain Domain on YouTube, where I do crafting videos, and I run a whole lot of D&D over on twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain. We stream Sunday nights, Monday nights, and Thursday nights. And at the end of August, I'll also be streaming every other Tuesday night on that channel, all various D&D official modules. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. All right, Nick, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nick. Probably like one of the first times I get to play online since I just got new internet. So that was a big barrier before. So thanks for including me, Matt. It was great playing with you guys. You guys are way amazing role players. Trying to catch up. But yeah, thanks again. Check out the Ad Tab group on Facebook. Good place to meet people. Thanks again.
It was awesome having you, man. I'm really glad you got to join us. So, yeah, awesome group of players. Like I said, I ran with whatever you guys were throwing at me, and you did an amazing job doing that. So, you gave me lots of fodder for emotional manipulation. And anytime I can essentially just make you guys shoot at each other, I'm like, okay, I did my job. So thank you everybody for watching. I'm definitely going to be running some more Mothership. This is like a really nice, simple game that can do a lot of heavy lifting. The panic tables are great. I like the stress system. I definitely want to run like a more like alien style combat heavy game with like some Marines cracking open a derelict ship full of aliens or something like that. So yeah, look forward to more. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Happy gaming all. And we'll see you next time. Oh, and RIP Google Hangouts. We barely knew you.